On behalf of Tech Bharat team, a very warm welcome to the excellent panelists that we are presenting here to the audience. The panel will be deliberating on the topic, healthcare, innovation, research, and regulatory compliance. Let me share a brief outline of the topic. In the last few decades, particularly in the last 2 decades, healthcare vertical has made amazing advances. But the packaging and the delivery of the healthcare are often considered ineffective and consumer unfriendly. Such problems beg for innovative solutions involving every aspect of healthcare, its delivery to consumers, its technology, and its business models. No doubt, a great deal of money has been spent on the search for solutions to these very issues. Innovation in the health or delivery of healthcare can result in more convenient, more effective, and less expensive treatment for today's time-stressed and increasingly empowered healthcare consumers. On the other hand, government regulation on healthcare can sometimes aid innovation and sometimes hinder it. Thus, it is very important for innovators to understand the exhaustive network of regulatory compliance that may affect a particular innovation and how and by whom those rules are enacted and modified. And we have a great panel. Let me, if you have the privilege, to introduce the panelists. Dr. Shyam Vasudev Rao, founder, Renelix, Dr. Aloknath De, CTO, Samsung India, Agarwal, founder, MyRisker.life, Dr. B. Srinivasalu, Chief Editor, International Journal of Ayurveda and Pharma Research. Before I hand over to Dr. Shyam Vasudev Rao to moderate the session, a brief introduction of Dr. Shyam. Dr. Shyam holds a doctorate in real-time embedded systems, specializing in parallel computer architecture from Indian Institute of Science. He's a gold medalist. And he has been with C.G. Smith, Ericsson, Tata Consultancy Services, and as Director of Technology at Philips. He was instrumental in devising one of the first hardware-based antivirus solution, NoxGuard, in the 90s. In his illustrious career, Dr. Shyam has established university relationships for joint research programs to work on wireless technology and medical electronics with Indian Institute of Science, IIT Mumbai, IIT Kharagpur, IIT Guwahati, Maastricht University, and Aalborg University. While at Philips, he established the innovation framework for consumer electronics and medical systems division. He exponentially grew the patent portfolio of both the above divisions and established working relationships with best known academic and research institutions. Let me also introduce Dr. Aloknath De. He's the CTO, Samsung India. Dr. Alok is BTech from IIT Kharagpur, ME from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and PhD from McGill. Dr. Alok has more than 30 plus years of corporate experience with 25 plus patents granted and filed and 50 plus publications. Dr. Day has been incessantly crafting core technologies to build a better connected world with enriched human-machine interaction. These solutions nestle in the intersection space of AI, IoT, big data. Over the years, he has been solving complex problems from radar systems to futuristic devices, from rich communication to machine understanding. His meticulous drive has made Samsung India Center an innovation hub with repeat recognition through National IP Award, Zinov, Great Place to Innovate, among other awards. He leads Samsung's deep partnership with and strategic investment of Indian startups. As CTO, he works to blend judiciously in-house innovations with open innovation. And Mr. Akash Agarwal is the founder, MyRisker.life. Akash Agarwal has been into consumer retail space for more than 30 years and proudly proclaims to have started his career at an age of 9 years, when most kids in his age were busy playing in grounds as an assistant to his entrepreneurial mother. Mr. Akash completed his formal education in science and attained his PG in management from Symbiosis Institute of International Business, followed by another PG degree in economics. He has been instrumental in launching and selling multiple concept brands and products in Indian market, starting from Nakshatra Diamonds, Magpie, Zwing, Recliners India, SIG, ZAG, to his own startup ideas in healthcare and emergency response communication. MyRisker.life in India is India's only mobile app independent emergency alert ID that works both with and without a smartphone and with and without internet. This is the first of its kind emergency response communication interface. Now I request Dr. Shyam Vasudev Rao to kindly take over the session.
Thank you, Tech Bharat. Thanks for the organizers, Vishu and Hiranaya and all of you. This is a wonderful opportunity to interact with my very nice colleagues here who have been working in this space of innovation and technology management in the healthcare domain. So this is a very rare opportunity, I would say, because meeting of like minds is not, it doesn't happen always. And that's where I see that Tech Bharat is really doing a great job. So let me quickly get on to what the subject of the day and what we are trying to deliberate. I see the Dr. Alok Nath and Akash having a lot of wonderful things to share with, and a lot of experience they come with, and a lot of intelligence. So firstly, let me just kick off. The topic is basically healthcare, and we all know healthcare, but what exactly we are trying to focus is the innovation and research and regulatory compliances and regulatory part of this whole game. So obviously, we see that these are the most important aspects of any product development, and more so when it comes to healthcare, it has a special role, and it has a more important role because we are dealing with human lives. So we cannot be taking chances. I served as a CTO at Philips Healthcare for around a decade, and I have also been now on the as a professor in one of the Dutch universities, Maastricht University Medical Center, and we have a lot of research going on in this field, sitting in India and getting you in Netherlands, Holland collaborators and guides and all that. So every day we are facing this issues of how exactly can we tackle this problem. The healthcare of today has changed its size, its shape, its dimensions, everything. Earlier, if I'm sure my other panelists will agree, Dr. Alok and and Mr. Akash, that earlier what used to happen was, healthcare was only focused on the sick care, the end part of the healthcare. That means people who are going to hospital only when they get sick and they are having some acute in stage of any problem. It is no more manageable, so they are running to the hospital. And then once it is fixed, you if it's a chronic problem, you get it back to chronic stage from acute stage. Then they are back home, and they think that they are healthy. But what has happened over a period of time? Things have changed. People have started to realize that healthcare is not just, going and getting a fix whenever there is a problem. It is a continuum, and we have to go back to our age-old traditional thought that prevention is better than cure. So this has now been catching up in a big way, and I cannot find a better response than Samsung, who are into this game. And also, we have Apple and all these people who are actually doing a lot of wonderful stuff to change the behavior of a person from not just going at the end stage, but also doing changing their health-seeking behavior so that they are preventive. They take more ownership on their health. That is what we have to do, right? If you earn money and put it in the bank, you are trying to keep the ownership with you. Likewise, for everything in life, health was one thing which we would always give it in the hands of somebody and say that okay, they will manage it. But that's not the case anymore. Healthcare has to be taken care of by us. And now what happens? This new paradigm of shifting from a sick care to wellness, is basically opening up a lot of opportunities, a huge opportunity. Okay. And this is where we are all trying to dabble around. We are trying to make it safe. That is where, I see that Mr. Akash Agarwal is trying to make some sort of emergency response systems which are highly reliable, not depending even on this one low resources also. There is no mobile network or anything, still it works. Likewise, in Alok also doing something where they are doing some of these wellness and all these gadgets and all that, apart from, of course, the regular MR cities and all that. And I am in a small way doing things, I have my own startups where I am doing connected devices, which are basically a connected dialysis machine, a smart dialysis machine. Can it be put in a rural area? That sort of a machine I made. And I'm also working with ophthalmology, where we are in a position to take the outpatient department of an eye hospital to the rural area or to the outreach so that people can get access. It can be put in malls, in kiosks, as a kiosk, or in metro stations or something, and people can get their eye checked wherever they are. So that sort of a thing. So we are now seeing the paradigm shift from hospital driven to patient driven or people driven. And this is a big opportunity. So when we talk about this sort of healthcare, obviously there are certain challenges. When you talk about diagnosis, you want 100% perfect system. But when you talk about screening, when you're talking about non-trained, unskilled people trying to do something, then there is a very big dilemma. Oh, is this getting accepted? And that is where, we do a lot of research. And that's why the research towards these sort of things and building evidences, building compliances become a very important aspect. And also, when we are going towards this, we need a certification, we need a regulatory, even regulatory, depends on how you are going to build the clinical evidences, and also, depends on publications. And that is where, research becomes important. And that leads to the next step, that is regulatory. So first, let me just pose the first part of the problem, that is basically the innovation part, and pass on this to the thoughts of Dr. Alok Nath De. Can you please highlight on what this change means to all of us?
Oh, thanks, Mr. Shekhar of Tech Bharat for organizing, hosting, sending the invite. Appreciate it. And Dr. Shyam, you have beautifully placed the thought process of today's health and healthcare systems, how it is evolving, how digital health is coming. I mean, obviously, there is this whole medical dimension that is growing, and whether it is allopathic, homeopathic, Ayurvedic, even in that space, there is a lot of development that's happening. I think there are, all these physicians who would be able to highlight much more on that. What I would like to delve upon it is two things. One, in the digital health, how our devices, gadgets that are coming up, we could provision this. The AI is coming. Is it going to be helpful in this regard? And the second is also on a specific examples I will take on eye care that we have launched with Arvind Eye Care. We are working with Narayan Netralaya. So given a time, we'll spend a little bit more time on that. First part of digital radiology, you also mentioned about ultrasound and from hospital driven to people driven. I think there, the standard way of doing radiology, the X-ray methods, it's very solid and sound, but there are a lot of vision technologies that are coming up. The cameras are everywhere. It is in some places where it shouldn't be, but probably it can be better utilized along with an X-ray. If I can get a little picture, then I can fuse that and build a great solutions. So this enhancement, this augmentations with vision technology is one dimension that we are looking into. The second dimension is you talked about ultrasound, and there are bigger equipments in hospitals and clinics, and they are better precision. That's perfect. But many of these can be also used as screening device, a maternity care. You don't need to go every time to the hospital to do it. Maybe somebody can help. The way BP can be measured now, why not even ultrasound at home? And with our knowledge in the device making, these portable, handheld, smart devices, which is medical and can do this as a preliminary, that's something that we are focusing on. So vision technology, the handheld devices, and the third part we are bringing is resolution, because we are talking about remote provisioning, right? Somebody is doing here, yes, doctor is doing, but suppose I transmit that image, a radiological image, to a remote place, another doctor looking into it, will they be able to decipher from that a mobile transmitted picture? Will it have enough resolutions to diagnose properly? So this is something that we could play a good role. So I think these three dimensions are bringing in the digital radiology. The other thing I wanted to say, you said like, health and preventions and the tail end to the full chain kind of it. And I must say, we used to hear that health is wealth, but it is like a casual proverb. But at our age, it becomes like a little serious statement. And in this COVID time, I must say that through exercise, through this digital technology, my own BMI from 27, I could bring to 21. Okay. So that's my personal achievement. But what we did in our work, and we have a great team led by Dr. Tiwari, who is medical doctor, but also engineering doctor. And this cross-disciplinary thing helps us to build new solutions. So we have smart devices, we have wearables, you hinted at that. And we look into all the sensors, digital sensors that have come, motion sensors, ambient sensors, body sensors, visual sensors, and they play a different role. So just to illustrate the point, for example, you have pedometer, you have accelerometer, gyrometer. I can do step count, I can do activity tracking of any time, even climbing up, climbing down, I can differentiate between the two. Any kinds of activity, exercise, automatic detections of them, because you are doing dumbbell and then you are moving to another. You cannot set your watch to every such movement. You have to do automatically. Calorie estimation. This is motion sensors. That's already there in the devices. And I am reutilizing it without paying anything extra. The second part, you spend a little bit, which is on ambient sensors. And this can be outside, this can be inside the devices, temperature sensors, humidity sensors, air quality sensors. Obviously, you can measure and improve on things. We did one great thing some time back that we are using. I believe it was something interesting, that ultraviolet detections, right? And you have UV sensors, but even if you do not have UV sensors from light sensors, you talk about innovations. This is what we did. From normal light sensors, by extrapolating, by looking into all the curves of how the light transmits, can I even estimate ultraviolet into that? and then effectively detect. So it's a low cost phone where I do not have an UV sensors, but I can still detect reasonably well. And if you have an UV sensors, you do that. So that's an ambient sensor category in which we are working. The third part, which is most important part, has been, and this is where growing to the next level of these watch and Fitbits and things like that. Can you detect alertness, stress, blood pressure estimate? I have already done 3 years back, 2.5 years back, and there is an app in App Store. You will see that Samsung, we did that blood pressure measurements. You don't need calibrations. And it is plus minus 6, plus minus 7, 120 by 80. You can go to the high 200 by, lower side of 40, 50. It fits into that range. And we didn't have special sensors. It's the PPG sensors that are there in some of the high-end phones. I would not say all. So plasmophotogrametry sensors, you put your finger, take 30 seconds, 45 seconds, you get it, you calibrate. And I have detected many people that didn't believe they have blood pressures, and they have gone to doctors thereafter after checking here. And today we are moving towards ECG and all. I'm not talking just Samsung, but the potentials of body sensors are huge. The last category, which I could elaborate in the next round, but this is the visual sensors. And this we are currently actively working, is on eye health diagnosis. And we built a diagnostic suite. And one solution is with VR set. You put your VR, and I can do a VR-based perimetric measurements, which comes in glaucoma, diabetes, many kind of things, the distortion that happens. And the other solutions we are doing is even normal eye acute problems that we have, eye getting defunct, and an early diagnosis of that something is going wrong. This we call eye-like platform, because many blindness that comes is due to acuteness. And if you can find it out early, and particularly LMIC's countries, we are deploying. So we have already deployed from India, and then Vietnam, we did pilot before that, and now Papua New Guinea and Morocco, 4 countries. In December, I launched with IAPB, International Agency for Preventiveness of Blindness, and APTOS, which is a society. So they organized a conference where I kind of launched these solutions. And in India, Arvind Eye Care has been our partner to take this forward. So I will pause here, and then maybe next round we can elaborate on some parts. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. This is a very, very interesting things what you are doing, and I also see that there is also my very special interest in the area of eye care. As you may know, that Forus Health is one of the companies which has been in this space for some time, and I've been the main innovator of that product. 20 patents in this field.
Great.
So you see that these are the ideas which we really, when way back in 2007, when I was talking about it in the company which I was working earlier, that is Philips, it used to be, people were telling, well, this is a poor man's problem and all that. Will India be in a position to afford this? And also, will the regulatory approve all this? See, that was the most important thing, because investments in big companies and all that, will only happen, if all the risks are covered. So today, if you see, we are all talking about it, we are there, with these products and these techniques like, screening, which is till today, there is no specific one which is there to define a screening. Like you really say, hit upon the right point that you have the BP thing, which will give you at an accuracy of around plus or minus 2.5% or something like that. Is that sufficient? Who is the one who is going to say that that is sufficient? All these sort of things, are what, we need to see. And that is where our research will also come in play, because with research, we can actually do extensive data analysis and publications in the peer-reviewed journals. And then, we will see that, well, there is an acceptance from the market, from the international bodies. Having that in mind, I started this program in India under the Maastricht University Medical Center. We do research. People at Samsung or Philips or GE, they sit in their companies, they do the work, and they publish their work. And we get the right type of guides. And with that, we are in a position to make a PhD thesis out of publication.
Sure.
And they get a PhD without even taking a day off. So through that, I'm in a position to encourage a lot of these companies. Today, I have around 34 institutions with whom we work, right from All India Medical Science, PGI Chandigarh to Arvind and all these people, where,
Great.
we are doing such a thing. So research becomes an important aspect. So
Right.
what I'm trying to tell is that research is of two types. One is we doing research in our own company, like in Philips or in Samsung or in some other company. That is a closed research, I would say. But then the world has actually moved a lot. So what we are seeing is an open research. And that is where, we'll go to in the next topic. But let me now bring in our friend, Mr. Akash Agarwal, who has a lot to share with us. Please, Akash, can you share your thoughts on this
Sure.
innovation part?
John, thank you, Dr. Day, and thank you, Tech Bharat, for this wonderful interaction. Okay. I was never, though my parents wanted me to be a doctor, medical doctor, I was somehow, not, made for it. And I spent quite a lot of my life in the consumer retail space, as you say, as you have seen that, we launched quite a lot of products into the Indian market. And when I got into entrepreneurship is where I did, so as you said about, mentioned about research. So we were like, so we did a lot of research, and as a marketeer or as a market person, we always look at the connect between the product and the market. So when we were talking about, so Dr. Shyam, I don't know whether you remember, but we actually have met at one of the events in Chennai about 5 years back, right? And that's when I actually was doing my lot of research in the healthcare space and trying to look at it from a layman's perspective, from the outsider perspective. See, any product that has to come into the market has to be adapted, there has to be an adaptation in the users for this, right? And then we came up with a product called Swasth Aadhar, where we said that, what India needs. India as a market is a very, very peculiar market, if you see. And we were like looking at the general physicians in the rural market, in the rural areas, or in the low economic belts of the urban areas where, there are physicians who are still charging about 10 rupees for the consultation and or 50 rupees, or if they take 50 rupees, they in fact even give you a 3 days medicine to the patients. And that's where we figured out that there's a huge gap in terms of continuation of the healthcare service. Why it is there? Because a guy who is maybe a auto rickshaw driver or a rickshaw puller or a vegetable vendor who goes into the societies, he is least bothered about continuation of his health. And that segment is the one segment which should be the beneficiary of all these innovations which we are talking about in the healthcare space. So we created some product called Swasth Aadhar, where we were linked. It was an electronic health record where we were talking about integrating all the healthcare devices or the diagnostic labs and the doctors and everything, and putting it into something called to do with Watson Analytics to figure out whether this person over a period of next 5 years is vulnerable to any chronic disease which can devastate his life and his family. Because this particular segment, if not taken care, poses a huge risk to the nation as well as to the society, if not taken care well in time. So we created this Swasth Aadhar where we were empowering the healthcare providers or the healthcare givers at the bottom of pyramid. right? And because see, as the educated people, you, me, or the, middle class or the upper middle class or the upper class, they can take care and they can afford the highest of the, best of the medical treatment. But when it comes to the medical treatment at the bottom of pyramid segment, or giving healthcare to the bottom of pyramid, the first biggest challenge is affordability and the continuation of, healthcare. And that's where we figured out that we need to create products which are independent of any, any fear of technology failure, or which could be free of any financial affordability deterrence. Today, when we are talking about, so when we created MyRescuer, we figured out that the moment our emergency victim becomes unconscious on the road, the first thing that happens to him is all the valuable, any product on his body which has some value is the one gets flicked away, right? So we were talking about wearables, connected devices, and we figured out that, okay, who is the one who is going to help this person on the road? Suppose I become a victim of hit and run on the road, or I get a heart attack on the road when I'm all alone, or probably I meet with some kind of a dropping in my health, blood sugar or a blood pressure level will render me unconscious on the road when I'm traveling to some other city where nobody knows me, right? What is the first thing which happens to a victim like me? My mobile is flicked away, my wallet is flicked away, anything which is valuable on my body gets flicked away. And that's where we figured out that if we put some kind of a connectivity to the Fitbit, or any kind of a wearable or something, right now will be too early for India as a market or us as a society, right? Over a period of time, maybe yes, if you're traveling, if you're in a Western world or a European world, there where people still care about things, there yes, wearable kind of products would succeed. But in a country like India, wearable will be the first one to get flicked away or taken away from the body of the victim, which renders this victim totally unidentifiable and in an unconscious state till the time he comes on in senses of its own. He cannot tell anybody about himself. His family cannot be informed, and all that. Then we have a chain of events that happen, right? Even if this person is taken to the hospital, when we spoke to a lot of emergency doctors across the country, we realized their biggest challenge was when the victim arrives in an unconscious state, they don't know whether the victim has any pre-existing medical conditions. And that's where we created a very, very, vernacular kind of a product in form of a QR code, which basically scanning this QR code not only informs the family, not only brings in the ambulance officer, but also lets the emergency doctor know about your pre-existing medical conditions. So my point was, innovation is good, fantastic, it's required, because it creates a benchmark for the future requirements. A product which is invented or which is innovated today may or may not be something which gets immediately adopted by the market, but it creates a precedent for future innovations as well, right? But it has to be to make it adapted for the market, to make it user friendly for the end consumer who is going to be using this product, is something which needs to be taken care. And that's where we figure out, as a marketeer or as a entrepreneurs or as a business guys, it is our a duty, I would say, to figure out the feasibility or viability of taking the innovations to the masses, right? And that's where we figure out that yes, this is where we create the link between the market and the product. So this is what we have been doing, and this is what we will continue to do. We do have plans to bring in more, innovative, vernacularly innovative ideas and products to the market in the future. So that's it from my side, from my end right now.
Wonderful. So this is another big thing which we see, how we retarget some of these technologies which are there in the other field, and also in some cases, which have already proven in other fields, and how to bring it into the most essential healthcare, right? So in today's world, as we say, it is no more this roti, kapada, makan. It is roti, swasthya, and then comes the rest of it, right? So this is what we are all living in. And from that point, I see that another important aspect of what you are talking about, how do we get this get this in place? How do we get the regulatory and the acceptance from the people on these sort of things? Sometimes, we have seen a lot of technologies have taken a lot of time to get its acceptance. For example, the very classical thing, what you are telling, the electronic medical records. Electronic medical records have been there for the last 25, 30 years. But what has happened, even in the country like US, where it is a reimbursement-based market, there is no acceptance and is still struggling. And we are now looking at how, in India, these sort of things can come in. That is where I see that innovative things like what you are doing in terms of making it such an essential thing that everybody has to go for it. Like, an accident, it's a very classical example what you gave, which is so very relevant and so very important that everyone, will say, yeah, I would go for it, right? That sort of a thing. And non-communicable diseases is a very, very big burden. And a lot of research is needed, I think, and is going on also in these non-communicable diseases. The phase in which I'm seeing is that the screening is one aspect of the NCD, but then the continuum, the disease management is the second part. And that is where, there is work happening, and we are all seeing that India can play a very big role in this, because what you see is, one is we have the very good analytical minds, like, what, Dr. Alok was saying, he has a person in his team who is a doctor and an engineer. I have also seen such as one, and I've been very much, in touch with IIT Kharagpur, where, we also work with the department there, SMST, MMST course. And when I was in Philips, I have been very fun to take a lot of them from that course. And even today, that tradition continues. So from every batch, one person they take, and like that. So this is the thing. So research is the second thing what we are looking at. And there, what I see is research is not that classical old research where I get into a particular subject, get into the depth of it, all that. It is what I can, multidisciplinary research is what is important. And we bring engineers, doctors, life science scientists, and also psychiatrists, and all sorts of art forms which come together to basically make these products. And we see that. I saw that in Philips, how these things really turn out to become a fantastic device. And also, anybody, anyone can use. Like, even a grandmother, that's what we used to tell them. If you make something, a grandmother should be in a position to use it. So that sort of a usability exercise, research should be done on that, such a thing. And of course, Samsung is a master in that. They make things which are so very attractive, so very easy to use. So I think this multidisciplinary research is something which I would say may fuel our, the new generation of medical devices. And so I would like to now request Alok, Dr. Alok, to share some of his thoughts about this multidisciplinary research and how they have been doing it, and what is his experience on this.
No, I think it is absolutely necessary. And as you give examples of IIT Kharagpur, and I'm graduate from there, but also Dr. Thierry, whose name I mentioned, he's also coming from there. So they have a good program. We also work with them. So one is to work with Engineering Institute, and Kharagpur has just opened the medical hospitals. And so biomedical engineering is becoming very strong there. But the other things is also at the tail end, so the middle part of it. So one is academic connect, one is inside. When we build, I also need this medical knowledge to a reasonable extent, if not to the highest level I can collaborate, but you need to do everyday stuff and blood pressure measurements. What are the parameters? So we found it out, like 40 plus things that I can measure. Now, finally, we might choose few things to keep it, few to throw, but you need to know, you need to understand that to be able to implement. At the same time, that engineering balance to make something happen, and I'll come to that iLike platform that we built and in that process, but that and this is no less, and they have to be coupled. Anything less is that last mile, what Mr. Akash also told, it will not be user friendly, it will be some issues or the other, that will be a problem. So that is second part of it. And the third part of it is, how do you know? You said compliance and FDA is there, but now there is some pre-FDA or sub-FDA kind of things for screening purpose. Governments are allowing in many countries, so that, yeah, you can use it for detections purpose, screening purposes. So this is where the trials with the hospitals, with the clinics, and we have been working with, as I said, in Arvind Eye Care and Narayan Netralaya have been on 2 different projects, have been partners, because the first person that comes and checks it, and if you would have done in another way versus this, the normal conventional way, what is the gain, first of all, that people want to understand? Is it you are saving time? Is it that you can do at your convenience? Is it too routine? What is the first gain? But at the same time, how much are we losing in terms of accuracies or the scope of deployment? Let me put it that way. If my BP is higher than 200, can this device, maybe it will fail there and start to behave erroneously, but that's okay. I mean, how many people are having above 200? So that's a part of clinical trial that we need to do. So the 2 programs that we did and we are continuing, the first one is iLike platform, very simple. Take the smartphone, have an ophthalmoscopic. There is a startup who has worked in Korea whose attachment we put because it has a better resolutions in cameras than the phones. But then you take that and you have a cloud, you have AI on device, AI processing, and at the end you are having this high quality fundus capturing, and then you are able to decide it's good, it's bad, definitely, and it's in gray area. You can take a conservative approach to decide, so that the doctors, you hand over to them. So making sure that it is good enough and the buy-in from the doctors and clinics are very, very important part. If they don't adopt, it becomes a difficult process, right? And you don't know the efficacy and the accuracies of it. So that's how we built the iLike platform. And the whole motivation has been, number of blind or visually impaired in globally, we saw 300 million almost people, and 90% of them are in low middle income countries. And many things are chronic, and out of which 80% disease actually can be prevented. So then it makes sense. If you cannot prevent, then measuring may not help that much. But if you can prevent, then these are good examples. Common, preventable are good examples where digital technology we could place. So this is how we took it, and we are deploying, and it's, we have a good participation, I can see, in that process. The second thing we did is visual field perimetry. The abnormal visual field can be caused by eye disease like glaucoma, diabetic, macular degenerations. So, the typical thing is Humphrey Visual Field Analyzers, the HFA, that is there. It's bulky, it's expensive, it's only at specialized hospitals that are there. So from there, I move on to how can I do portable, inexpensive, commercially available, very comfortable to use, less time. This, when he did that, it's very interesting. And when he launched Inside, also Samsung, it's all engineers, right? There's not medical people. They found it very ecstatic. that such things can be done. So you fix your eye suprathreshold, as we call stimuli at the middle, and in the VR with the smartphone, you put that, and then you move around your, the stimuli around, differential sensitivity at each point by changing intensity. And you can then say, okay, which region are you able to track? Where are you missing? And where are you able to detect? And then you can go into details and say what kind of disease that is there, how acute it is, and then hand over to the doctor. So we did that with 100 patients to start with, male, female, both mix, age between 25, 75 years, and at least few glaucoma suspects, normal some eyes, because you want to see both, it works, but 60 eyes probably on the glaucoma suspects. Many are confirmed glaucoma, and then we are able to establish that it is almost at 94% accuracy. This is by doctor's report, which we have published in journals along with the doctors, not to be able to do this. So these are two examples, and the clinic part, academic collaborations, and your question of multidisciplinary things. But I just wanted to touch on one other point, which is very different but coupled, is that, I said low income, medium income groups, right? So many of them may not have these high-end phones, right? So what we thought that I don't want to take the high end. In any case, it will work there. But many a times today, what is happening is people have 2, 3 smartphones, right? And the older ones, they're buying new to do all these productive things for themselves, but the older one is staying at home. Can I use this older phones, S6, S7, we are at S20, but S6, S7, it has enough processing power. And instead of growing electronic waste, we are calling Galaxy upcycling. I just put that phone for this dedicated purpose. I don't need to do anything else, and make use of that processing power of that device. And instead of calling an e-waste, take it into this main channel, which will serve this purpose. So we have launched globally this Galaxy upcycling program for many things, but I'm also leveraging for this project so that, it is cost effective, and we can do better justice and cover more countries, more patients into that way. So I hope I answered your question of multidisciplinary, but also I took the opportunity to highlight the programs that we are doing and how overall it makes sense in cost-effective, reliable, remote provisioning way. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. This is a very good example of how research can help in bringing new innovations, and then working with multidisciplinary, like your engineers working with the doctors there, glaucoma specialists at Aravind, and also publishing this information and making it a standard. Getting it into the CDCs. So that is a very, very important aspect of medical device research. And then once it is done, then we go to the next phase where we will have to see how to get the regulatory and the challenges we face in regulatory. However, let me bring in our friend Akash, and with the same thought on how he sees the research in this light of healthcare.
Okay, thank you, doctor. So I've been a very strong supporter in bringing in the research, and at the same time I also look at research from, as I said in my previous talks, that whatever we do has to be user friendly, could be adapted, and should be affordable as well. So the process, so I was listening to Dr. Day about this upcycling program, which I'm like, fantastic. This is like, this will solve a lot of challenges in terms of affordability of devices for the people. Because if you see in India, typically we have like ASHA workers, right, who also double up as midwives sometimes, and they provide basic healthcare services in the rural areas or in the low income areas. and they are the ones who have been like who could be the great force multiplier for any research driven or for any research, consumer research or the patient research in the country today. I mean, this research has to be conducted at, means I am a strong support believer that the research in India should be conducted at bringing in all the segments of the society. And since the larger proportion of the patients population comes from the vulnerable vernacular segment, they are the ones who should be taken into account. So the best example of this was when there was this Delhi-based startup who brought in diagnostic box which they gave to all the rural healthcare workers, which they would carry in their backpack, and it will give you the results on multiple parameters. On the same lines, there's a US-based organization, a company who has created a small box on which like you measure, put a drop of blood on a glucometer strip, right, and gives you a glucose reading like that. That similar kind of a strip put into this device can give you multiple results, multiple test results with just 1 or 2 drops of blood. So, and within few minutes. That was the best part of it, that sometimes these tests could give you a lot of good results. In fact, recently we came across a wearable device by an Israel-based company, Cardisense, they called, and they are talking about a watch which will be feeding all the major vitals to the back-end servers and will alert the emergency providers or the physicians to bring in, the preventive healthcare side. So in the first part, as you said, where patient goes today, they go to the hospital only when this goes out of the hand, out of control. But now the market has to move from a reactive response to a healthcare to a preventive response, a preventive mode of the healthcare mode, and that's where this innovation and a lot of research will help in, right? And this. As you said, this so how to take this research to the bottom of pyramid or to the masses is the challenge, I see. And this
that itself needs a research.
Sorry?
That itself needs a research.
Yes, correct. And especially when we see it in India, means I should not be quoting this, not to be quoted in this, but all such studies also have a lot of influence from the local administration and the local politicians, who actually, in some cases, I would rather not say this, but then it is a challenging task, right? One state in India which has done phenomenally well when it comes to the healthcare for masses is Meghalaya. And they have done a phenomenally great job in, taking healthcare records and taking the healthcare technologies to the bottom of pyramid, right? And a lot of other states we have seen, yes, it's still challenging from the regulatory compliances perspective, because whatever innovations you bring in today, right, has to be based on the research. You conduct research, you bring in the product into the market, and then you realize the government is not letting you do it.
Right.
This is a bitter truth of the healthcare innovation or the healthcare, research. Right? There are a lot of regulatory, and healthcare is one subject where you are always evolving. Right? Means even after 25, so being a part of the Digital Health Association in India, we realize that, we have been discussing what is happening globally, and we realize US has still not reached where it wanted to reach in the last 25-30 years. NHS in UK has been able to, because it is very flexible, it has been able to achieve certain goals of their digital health program. And in India, we are still about 10 to 15, 20 years away from achieving that goal of, bringing everybody on the same, platform. When we launched Swasth Aadhaar in 2016, We were the only health tech company which got the Aadhaar license, and we were listed on the National Health Portal of the Ministry of Health. And when we went to, and we were talking about that today as a consumer, as a patient, when you go to a doctor A in one city, and when you go to a doctor B in another city, you need to carry loads of all your paper records. And with Swasth Aadhaar integrated systems, you just have to carry your Aadhaar number and you put your Aadhaar biometric to work as a password to let the doctor access your health records, your past records. Right? We were integrating all the diagnostic chains. We were talking about integration of diagnostic devices as well. But then the willingness from the user has to be there. So we went to a couple of diagnostic centers where we said your ECG machine has a USB port to put it directly into a pen drive or to put it on live in the online system repository. And the ECG machine operator said, no, sir, we cannot do that. We are not authorized to do that. Right? We were talking about mining workers. The biggest challenge of, people, the mining workers is, deposition of this material in their lungs, and their, which reduces their breathing capacity. And we usually end up calling it as asthma or a breathing disease, but it is actually something
Silicosis.
Silicosis.
Yeah, silicosis.
Right?
Yeah.
And almost every state where you have mines have this problem.
Silicosis. Yeah.
Silicosis, correct. Right. I come from a city where you do a lot of artifacts in marble. They make a lot of marble Taj Mahals and lot of stuff. Right. And the entire artisan, workforce, at least 50% of them have this problem. And we wanted to create a system where we could take their X-ray on the spot in the mine itself, and with the telematics, we take it to the specialists in the cities, because there are very few specialists who could identify silicosis in the lungs, right? But adoption was the biggest challenge. In fact, when we were in the market, we ended up rubbing a few medical practitioners on the wrong side, and they said, "Ab technology hame batayega ki hame kya karna hai." So they were like, we realized that in India, adoption is going to be a biggest challenge, and adoption to taking this technology to the bottom of pyramid is another challenge. Is one Herculean task, and if we are able to achieve that, in another 5 years, 10 years, I'll give my salute to the person who has done this. But I think we will have to collaboratively, collectively take this mission and take it to the market.
Yeah, I think, 3 important points that are coming, and Dr. Shyam also mentioned, and you brought in. One level is this medical knowledge and engineering knowledge fusion and making something that works right. Second thing is physicians cannot be on the other side. So you have to make them partner in the process with the right scoping, right things, so that they know their burdens are getting lesser in the process and they can do better jobs. And this is doing good enough jobs for this, why to repeat? So that's the second part of it. And the third part where Mr. Akash is doing quite a lot, and as I hear, and I'll be keen to know a bit more QR scan code, where to put, maybe I should do a tattoo or something to put that on the sleeves, yes, on the band, but we can do tattoo, right? On the body. We can do a tattoo on the body, right?
This is a silicone band with a laser engraved QR code on it.
Right.
Right. And this will let not only inform my family within 15 seconds after scanning this, it will also call for ambulance services in more than 120 cities in India. It will also enable an emergency doctor to know about my existing medical conditions. And it will also enable a empaneled hospital to give me a cashless treatment of up to 50,000 rupees, because though I have all the insurance in place, when I'm not identifiable, even my insurance cannot help me.
Yeah.
So this
So
will
this
also
is great.
enable, this will also enable my treatment, because today aap ye dekhiye, the biggest challenge is, have you ever seen a car owner stopping to help an emergency victim? No.
Very rarely.
The people who help are the passerbys, slum dwellers, auto rickshaw drivers, or the two-wheeler riders. And they usually are from the economically weaker section. And the biggest deterrent for them today to help a emergency victim is when they take the victim to the hospital asks them to pay for that treatment.
Yeah.
And that's where they feel कि हम जाएंगे तो पुलिस परेशान करेगा, hospital परेशान करेगा. And that's why we are now going a step ahead. We are talking to a couple of legal experts to create a legal support cell for the Good Samaritans.
Great, great. This is very
Fantastic.
important.
Very
This
good.
adoptions at the last leg. And
So,
great job. Thank you.
This awareness by telling people, आप किसी के हाथ में ऐसा QR कोड बैंड देखते हैं, उसे हॉस्पिटल ले जाइए, आपको कोई परेशान नहीं करेगा, आपको हॉस्पिटल, you don't have to pay anything to the hospital, you don't have to worry about being harassed by the law enforcement agencies.
Great.
Right.
Good job.
We are trying to
Very
build
nice.
solutions which are can be used at the bottom of the pyramid. So this also has a phone number. So for example, a slum dweller who doesn't have a smartphone and he still wants to save my life, he just have to call upon a number given on here on this band, and it will still trigger the services for that sex, for the victim.
Excellent.
Great.
Right. So this
Very
is
good.
this is how we want to bring in the change. This is what we talk about, the change at the bottom of pyramid.
Great.
Wonderful. So this is a very, very big, I would say it's a great eye opener. And we have also been, doing these sort of attempts. So I have been a little lucky with some of these policy makers, and also, with some of these things like ASCOM and also FICCI, where I'm chairing the Medical Device Forum. So for the last couple of years, we have been working very closely with the ministry and also the health secretary and all that. There are two things which I would say, that getting an acceptance to these sort of new procedures, protocols, or whatever you say, we have a mechanism, in other countries where we say that there is a HTA, Health Technology Assessment Forum. And in India, we were lacking that. So we have now started a couple of HTA programs with directly with the government, and in some cases also with some big NGOs. Like, you can do a HTA today. Now you have this procedure. Say you want this to be certified, CHAPA from this one. What we can do is, we can go to TISTI. TISTI is a Department of Biotechnology initiated, center in Delhi, where technology assessment is done. So what they do is, they take this as a project and work with some hospitals or with NGOs and try to create, do a proper, analysis of this field study and publish it, and also, say that, well, government, this is the thing you have to adopt. Now in Ayushman Bharat, there is preventive care, but they don't simply take anything and everything, whatever we suggest. So what they do is, they will go through this HTA. Okay, it has come, there is a HTA which is done on this, and that is what is coming to us, then we can do. So for that, there is a department which is needed. And today we have the NIPER. It's called NIPER. NIPER is a place where you can register these sort of HTA programs. And there are a couple of NIPERs created, centers created. It is headquartered in Ahmedabad, but it is also, centers are there in all the states almost. So NIPER representatives are there, and then, we can actually go to them and do it. There is this one called as PATH. PATH is a big international NGO, PATH. They also are sort of internationally recognized as someone who can actually conduct such HTAs. So they are now very actively involved with all the PHCs across the country and very actively working with what is the requirement at the PHC, what technologies can be brought into that, and if there are suggestions, if there are some companies coming up with this, they will take it up, apply, send it, pass it through their own ethical committee, and immediately get started on the study, on the HTA study. So this is something I think we now have, and through which we can actually make this sort of clinical research, or whatever you call it, clinical evaluation in some cases it's called. So we can have this done through the HTA program. The other part of the thing is that the bottom of the pyramid is a big thing. In fact, my association with Aravind has been for a long time working with the University of Michigan and also CK Prahlad. So we have been, I think you all, everybody knows that CK Prahlad is the one who coined this word of BOP, and he got a lot of concepts of BOP. But then there is an equally important and interesting concept, which in the University of Delft, Amsterdam, they have come up with a concept. He's an Indian professor who has come up with the concept of triple bottom line. And today, if you see more and more, that is becoming relevant. So you don't count the revenues for these sort of social innovations just by top and bottom line. That is only one factor. The second factor is basically the number of lives you are going to touch. And you can already see that today, whatever it is, the Ubers or Olas or whatever, all these Swiggies and all these, even the Ohio homes and all that, they are not making any profit, but their valuation is going up because the number of lives they are touching, and that active enrollment of people who are users is going up. So that is the second one. So that is another bottom line to be considered. So then the third one is sustainability, eco-friendliness. So if you are actually doing an organic farming and organic food, you see, you are paying a premium. So you are actually, if there is a triple bottom line and you are trying to put your technology and your venture into this triple bottom line, measure it with this triple bottom line, then you can easily show value in the work what we are doing for the BOP. So this is something which is a very interesting concept. And in future, that is what this Professor Prabhu Kandachar, who is an Indian origin, who has made a thesis, and also he has set up a department in Delft University designed for BOP. There's a school there for design for BOP. And it has been a wonderful concept. And so that is something, which could also help us in basically looking at bottom of pyramid.
Yeah, this is a good point. And when I was mentioning about this galaxy upcycling, in a sense, not exactly following this principle, but that sustainability part that you're saying, that this could bring in, I mean, obviously cost effectiveness, but also eco-friendly way, I mean, not wasting and reductions of waste. But that's a great point. Number of lives touching, revenue, and obviously sustainable. Yeah.
So I strongly feel that there is a future for this, and we will be now seeing the new world with this, and the HTA will be in a position to NIPER help us with getting the acceptance of the government. And then once the government reimburses all these things like screening, I have a program on screening people for kidney failure. I can detect kidney failure 15 years before they get to the dialysis stage. 15 years before somebody gets to a dialysis stage. That is the thing. And those sort of things, will be very impactful. And, we have patented technologies for that. So what I'm saying is that this is the research exactly what I wanted to emphasize and see that it is not the conventional IIT, IISc or any of these places research what we see, but it is this research is what is needed, and that is what we are all discussing and deliberating. I think this
Thank
has
you.
been point has been well represented. So going to the last point quickly, that what we are talking about regulatory. End of the day, the anything which has to go to the market, we need to see that it has the right regulatory part. And in India, particularly for healthcare, medical devices, our regulatory is still lagging behind. Nevertheless, there is a Indian Medical Device Regulatory Act which has been passed by the Parliament, and from the 1st of April, there will be 24 devices which will come into this regulatory act. And what is still a debatable thing, which is dilly-dallying, is that should we have a separate Indian regulatory, or should we follow the international regulatory standard like the CE or FDA? But now it is already a very much, in this one, that we will have an Indian Medical Device Regulatory Act, which will be in compliance with the ISO BSI standards. That means CE, the European standard. So that way, there is something really going well. And there are organizations like AMID, which has been created to basically take care of the regulatory. So one part is the regulatory, but the other side of it is also the acceptance by not only India, but also the or the entire global market. So from that point, I think there is a hope now that as our this one is compliant to the international standard, so that way we will getting a CE certification will directly enroll somebody into the Indian medical one. At the same time, if you have an Indian medical regulatory pass, it will also come with a CE certificate, that sort of a thing. So that way, there is a hope on that. The next important is that how are we going to test it? Do we have that type of laboratories? We have seen that in the pharma industry, all these things have been resolved. And today we have some of the best pharma one. To just mention, you may be knowing, India has the maximum number of FDA approved products in pharma. India has the maximum number of FDA approved products in the in the pharma sector, and we are the pharma of the world. Yeah, 80% of the pharma is US gets it from India, and 65% of the world's pharma is served by the Indian laboratories and Indian companies. So we see that the same effect is going to be coming to the medical device also, and we see that this is going to be having a very big future, and it is a time for us all to get ready for that.
Sure.
That is the very positive news what we have. So I would like to ask you the regulatory, what do you think about it, Dr. Aloknath?
Yeah, I think I will take 2 points. What you said is obviously very, very important. One, FDA approved, and it was a news really, those many are there from India, but also I think, if you want to promote innovation, since this is a new thing, so a soft angle of, call it pre-FDA, sub-FDA, whatever. In fintech world in India, we are doing very well by having sandboxing approach and fintech hackathons and things like that. So I would like, yes, final regulations are important, but you are not there. So how do you get there? So this innovation to be incorporated through this sandboxing approach and certain softer approval is very, very important. And the second example, this is from fintech, but on the telecom world, what we are doing, not just a regulatory body, but also a standard body. We have here TSDSI and TEC as Telecom Engineering Center and TSDSI as India body. and we have TRAI as a regulatory body. So to start with, maybe one of them is good enough, and over time, if we build our own standards, then we can do into two. But that's very, very important. And there also, we are taking global 3GPP standard for 5G, and we are not making a lot of changes first. But over time, who knows, and we can play that role. But definitely a standard body and a regulatory body. But initially, instead of being too enthusiastic and start drafting your own version, it's better to follow the global norms, call it your Indian standard, and BIS and
Yes.
ISO does that very well. So
Yes.
if we capture that path, I think that's going to be good. And then with
That-
innovations, we can have our own umbrella subsequently.
Exactly. So that way, it is a good news that we are having this same ISO BSI standards, which have been adapted and which have been redrafted to suit the Indian one. The
Exactly.
only change is that, you know, that in these standards, the products and innovations, how they get impacted. All these have been, you know, driven by reimbursement market. But in India, all these are driven by out-of-pocket expenses. So there is no way you can tell that you have to be strictly like this.
Okay.
For a procedure, for a protocol, you know, you say, okay, you have a doctor who will check this, and then you will do this, you have to do that, and then you go back to the doctor.
You're right.
You're right. That's big point.
In fact,
And you cannot have multiple appointments here. You can, yeah, you can tell a person, see, you are diabetic, you have to get your eye checked. But you cannot, in the Western markets and all, you cannot, that person cannot go out until the eye is checked.
Here,
And the report
somebody
will
will
not
say,
be given
please
by
pay for me, then I will go through. It's my
Exactly. So here it is like they don't even care. They just go off. No, what do? Can you put a penalty on the person who has given a prescription to him or her? So like that, you know, those are some of those, you know, that related stuff, you know, which has to be little looked into. That's all. Otherwise, we follow exactly the same ISO BSI standard.
Great. Good point.
No, technology actually provides for a lot of opportunities to become flexible in our approach to when we draft these kind of guidelines. So one of the primary clause in any such regulation or regulatory, you know, framework has to be the flexibility to adopt as per the upcoming new innovations.
So regulatory and flexibility are two different
trade-off. Trade-off is there. That's the innovation part. Flexibility, innovations, and this is compliance, right?
Yes, exactly. So playing with that is a really tough task, and almost for the last 8 years, this regulatory act has been, you know, in the in the standing committee, sitting committee, whatever you say, and it had never been passed. I think in the second, it's one like in 2014, 15, I think they took it up, and now we have that passed. That is 2 years ago. Now, because of the COVID, you know, 1 year has got extended, all that, you know, in the rollout. So that way, it is regulatory is a very important aspect, and I think we have now seen. I think it was a wonderful one that we have touched upon all the three important aspects: innovation, the research, and the regulatory. You know, are the three phases of I would say any innovation life cycle or any product life cycle, and it has been a very, very live and active and very mindful discussions what we had.
Thank you.
I would say that this is a great opportunity to get to know and also share our thoughts with Tech Bharat, who is going to you know, spread it across. I think this knowledge is a very, very rare thing. It comes out of great experience, and that way I am very happy to see that we could cover a whole gamut of things within this short period of time. So,
Thank you, doctor. Thank you.
I'd like to conclude this session and thank you both, Akash and Dr. Lok, and we shall look for the next opportunity to meet up. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr.
Extremely-
Shyam, for wonderful moderations. And Mr. Akash, I'm going to get your QR code.
Anytime, anytime.
Wonderful. Same with you here.
I will have it.
Let's catch up.
I will send you an email. Just share me your address.
Fantastic.
I will have it sent across to you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Extremely thankful to you, Dr. Shyam Vasudev Rao, for anchoring this excellent session. In fact, it was very, very exhaustive and wide-ranging topics were discussed in this deep dive session. My personal thanks to also to Dr. Alok Nath and Mr. Akash Agarwal. Thank you very much once again for the great panel. Thank you, sir.